Welcome to For Better or For Court, Family Law in New Jersey.
Welcome back to For Better or For Court, Family Law in New Jersey with Ms. Alix Claps. Alix is a partner at Heyman & Fletcher and a certified matrimonial law attorney who helps New Jersey families handle divorce, custody, and complex family matters with clarity and care. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about relocation cases, specifically what happens when one parent moves out of state with a child and the other parent objects. Ms. Alix, welcome back.
Hi, Evan. How are you?
Let's start with the core question people are searching for. If your divorced or separated parent in New Jersey wants to move out of state with their child, can they just do it?
No. The answer, there are few absolutes, but if you have joint legal custody or it's not yet determined, you're at the beginning stages of your divorce or separation process, don't just move out of state with your child. You can move out of state. Your child cannot move out of state just on your own whim.
So how does the legal, analysis differ if the parents share joint legal custody versus if one parent has primary like residential custody?
Residential custody does not change the legal analysis. It changes the factors when the court makes a determination about what the ultimate decision is going to be. But if you have joint legal custody, this is one of those major decisions that if your child is going to be moved, there has to be a discussion and there either has to be agreement or court order allowing that to happen.
So what standard do New Jersey courts apply when deciding whether to allow relocation, and how has that standard evolved in recent years?
It has evolved in recent years. I was thinking this morning that, the Bisbing case, that was recent. No, actually, it was about 7 years ago now. So it's not as recent as it feels. But that was the case that made a big shift in New Jersey law from the standard for a move being that it not be inimical to the child's interest, meaning that it not be a bad idea for the child, to a burden of it has to be in the child's best interest for the child to be relocated, which puts it on par with all other decisions for the child in the state of New Jersey, which I do think makes sense.
So, Ms. Alix, what factors does a judge look at when determining whether a proposed move is in the child's best interest?
So the judge is going to look at the same factors for a relocation case now as they do when they're determining whether parents should have joint or sole legal custody. What are the child's needs? What are the parents' needs? What's the dynamic between the parents? Are they able to communicate? What is the existing schedule? That's sometimes a big one because sometimes, especially up in North Jersey, a relocation doesn't impact the time that the parent of alternate residence has with the child. If they're having every other weekend, a parent and child could move across the state line and be in New York or Pennsylvania and not be much further away than they are now. So the weight each factor gets will change from case to case, but they're looking at the same factors that they look out for legal custody.
So how much does the reason for the move matter? Example, a new job opportunity, remarriage, or just moving closer to the extended family, perhaps?
Again, it all depends on the child's specific needs. Sometimes the new opportunity for the parent means really good things for the child. Sometimes it means that it's in the child's best interest that that parent relocate and the child stay in New Jersey. Being the parent of alternate residence does not make you a bad parent. Sometimes it means you're prioritizing your children's needs in a different way than being physically present for them more often than the other parent. Sometimes if you've got a child with special needs, medical needs, developmental needs, moving to be near an extended family network is important. Sometimes parents need to relocate to care for an elder in their family. If they have a parent who's farther away and it's a better decision to relocate to be near that parent than to try and relocate that elder to be in New Jersey, that's something that the court's going to consider, even though it's not strictly speaking anywhere enumerated in the statute. But that goes to the whole family dynamic. Court's going to look at all of that.
So if a parent wants to relocate for a legitimate career advancement, how does the court balance that against the other parent's right to maintain that relationship with the child?
It becomes an even stronger affirmative obligation for the parent of primary residence if that child's getting relocated. Sometimes that's a matter of, all right, we're going to shift the school break schedule. So the parent of alternate residence is going to get a lot more time in the summer, or they're always going to get winter break, or they're always going to get spring break. So we're going to maximize the time to not disrupt the child's school they can spend with the other parent. Sometimes it's a financial obligation. All right, if you're going to move and the child has to fly back and forth, or the parent has to fly to visit, the parent who's moved is going to become responsible for those costs. So it can be an emotional, it can be a time, it can be a logistics, it can be a financial burden that a parent takes on because they are being permitted to relocate.
So what kind of evidence is typically important in a relocation case? Are courts looking at school districts, housing plans, travel logistics, or, all the above?
All of the above. I think ultimately the first thing the court looks at is whether the application to relocate is being made in good faith. That might be if a parent now has a new job offer. Did they look for a new job in the state of New Jersey? Are their career advancement prospects similar in New Jersey, or is this really a unique snowflake type job where they can only get it if they relocate to California or internationally? Sometimes, we see less international relocation in the United States than they do in Europe, but international relocation is a whole other level of burden that you're putting on the family. So looking at what really is the impulse. If the parent says, oh, I'm getting remarried and that's the reason why I'm moving, we're going to look at, well, okay, you knew you had this child. You knew you had this custody arrangement before you got involved with this person. Is it because you've gotten remarried in New Jersey, you've been together a couple of years, and this person has been transferred to another state? That's different than, oh, I'm going to, elope and live in Reno now or whatever.
So can parents ever negotiate a relocation through mediation, or do these cases most always end up in court, Alix?
You can absolutely mediate a relocation or negotiate it through your attorneys, even without a mediator. If you can reach an agreement, and again, you're looking at the same information, your attorneys are looking at the same information that the court's going to look at ultimately. What's the reason? How is it going to impact the other parent's time? Maybe the parent of alternate residence has relocated already, and this is going to bring them closer or not impact that at all. Maybe the parent of alternate residence is the parent of alternate residence because they travel a lot for work. So they can either keep their home base in New Jersey and visit wherever the child is, or they could relocate their own home base. I have definitely seen cases where the ex-spouse also moves because it doesn't impact their life in a negative way, and it's positive for the child. Great.
So if a parent moves without the court's approval or the other parent's consent, what are the legal ramifications in Jersey?
So if you take your kid and leave, or your kid goes to visit you in another state and you don't want to give them back, that's where jumping into court immediately does become important. You get a court order almost without fail that says, yeah, no, other parent, you've got to send this child back. You've got to bring this child back to New Jersey right now. And then we can have a hearing down the line about whether this relocation effort is being done in good faith. If that court order gets ignored, then you get sheriff's departments and police in the other state and arrests for kidnapping and other parents flying out to retrieve children and very bad things. So please don't do that.
How do judges evaluate the feasibility of preserving the relationship between the child and the non-moving parent if the relocation is approved?
Some of it has to do with the child's age, and has to do with what was the schedule beforehand. So, if you have a child who's a high schooler, they have a more longer-term, well-established relationship with the parent of alternate residence. It's easier for them to communicate via FaceTime or telephone. They can travel by themselves. Big difference between that and an infant, where somebody's got to accompany this child back and forth. You're not really getting any quality time over video chat or anything like that. So those are considerations. On the flip side, when you have a young child, you're not bound by a school schedule. But by the time a child's in high school, you've got pretty defined needs for that child. So we're going to look at all that, and we're going to look at the court's going to look at the very specific needs of each family.
So for parents listening who are considering a move, what steps should they take before making any plans to ensure they're handling it properly under New Jersey law?
Oh, please talk to your attorney. Ask for a consult, because they're going to tell you what information you need to be gathering, even if this is just maybe in a couple of years, we're going to do this. If you're at the beginning of a divorce process and you're thinking about relocating at the end of it, tell your attorney now, even if it's not something you petitioned for, because you can also build into your divorce settlement agreement the parameters for which a relocation would be approved without the need to go back to court or back to mediation. Or if you've already been divorced and you've got a separation agreement and it doesn't address that, then we got to know, is this career oriented? Is this personal and oriented? Is this your private life? What's going on? What do you need to preserve as evidence in case this has to go to court? I think the information you're gathering for potential court purposes is also useful for a negotiation or mediation. If you need to convince your ex that you are not just doing this to be mean, you're doing this for a good reason.
All right. Thank you, Miss Alix.
Thank you, Evan.
All right. That's a wrap on today's episode on For Better or For Court. If you're considering a move or facing a relocation dispute, visit HeymanFletcherLaw.com to connect with Alix Claps and understand your options under New Jersey law. And don't forget to like, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.